All right, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Stu and the Nun. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. Now my video is kind of a little delayed. First, I want to start before we get going tonight. Thank our sponsors. Those are good friends of the show. Alpha Elite Performance, where you can go and get use the coupon code Elite15 to get your supplements from our good buddy Travis Wilson over there. All great stuff made for Alpha Elite with Alpha Elite. In fact, I just did an order today. Use the coupon code Elite15 to get myself some new pre-workout, some Pipe Hitter XP. Got some other good stuff. Oh, got some new protein. It's time for another order, so definitely check out Alpha Elite Performance. Gear for Grunts, Red Rum Sport Fishing, where Toby's down there doing great things in Cabo, and BooHammer.com. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and a bigger thank you to past guests, multiple time past guests, I think even a guest host, if I remember right, our good friend from the great state of Arizona, Mr. Matthew Thomas. What's up, buddy? Mr. One-Time Deputy.
Hey. Yeah, man, I'm doing good. How are you? And
Good.
Travis, I got to say what's up to Travis. He's a friend of mine. Good stuff, man. His GBNT, spot on to get some sleep.
You know what? I just ordered some today. That was one of the things I added. I had not ordered that before, and I added GBNT to my order. I was actually talking with Travis earlier, and told him, I said, dude, just got my order in, needed some new stuff. I didn't know you're good friends. I shouldn't be surprised. Great people like you guys all know each other.
So he's a solid dude.
Yeah.
Has great stuff.
Yep. And he has his Alpha Elite Outdoors, kind of picking up from some of the other groups, and like Veteran Outdoors and stuff, and doing great things, taking vets out on awesome trips and all that. Yeah. So yeah, solid stuff. Use that Elite 15 code and tell them Stu and Nunn sent you guys. But yeah, good stuff. Hey, I just realized you did not put up One-Time Deputy. Actually put your name up. I didn't. I just when I brought you on, I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't have One-Time Deputy on there.
But what's weird, man, is you go by these social media handles rather than your real name, and people start on the street. You'll run into people, and they'll be like, "Hey, Deputy One Time." I'm like, "God, my name's Matt," but yeah, what's up?
yeah. It's I have friends of mine that are in the movie and TV industry and stuff like that. Same thing. They do a role, and people latch in on that, and they just. Yeah. It just fixates in their head, It's like, like Jason said, I'm not Ted Lasso, It's like I have a normal accent. But hey, great to have you on. It's been a while. And there's a big poster behind you, and we're definitely gonna cover that in a little bit. We definitely want to talk about that. Very excited about that news. But you've been busy out there now. If you wouldn't mind just giving our viewers and listeners don't know a quick summary of kind of what you do and who you are.
My name is Matt Thomas, and I work for the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. My official title is Chief Deputy, and that's my rank, which means that I'm second in command to Sheriff Mark Lamb, aka the American Sheriff. And I've been working for the Sheriff's Office now for 30 years, and I've done pretty much everything in the agency. I was patrol, I was SWAT, I was undercover, I was on motors, traffic, all that, and worked my way up through the ranks to where I'm at currently, and been in this position for the past 7 years with Mark Lamb, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
So 30 years, dude. Is being a sheriff that easy? Because you look very young. It looks very stress-free.
Well, dude, so a lot of people say that, and I'll give credit to my wife, because she has helped me look young and stay looking young by keeping me motivated in the workouts and healthy living. But my body does not feel young. Let me tell you, it has been worn out.
That's where that Alpha Elite Performance comes in, and that GBNT to sleep well. That's how we spin it in there.
That's right.
Yeah, good deal. But no, man, I just 30 years. I'm like, wow, you look way too young for that. Like you start as a 12-year-old, like whatever. But yeah. So you're out in Arizona, Pinal County, and doing a lot of stuff. And people that maybe used to watch the old show Live PD may be familiar with you guys and what you do out there, and people that have just ever been around in the Southwest. I mean, it's a totally Arizona. I lived there myself a long time ago. I used to live in Mesa. I mean, it's definitely an area that's a state that's unique from just about any other state. It's different. I remember when I moved from there to the East Coast, I was like, I was used to, I forget how much Arizona has. It has like what, 5 or 6 counties total. I mean, it's not many, right? There's huge. Is it what? Is it 15? I just remember like
15.
Maricopa and some of those were just giant. I come to the East Coast there's a county every 5 minutes. It's like another.
Yeah, ours is Pinell County is 5,400 square miles, and so
Yeah.
yeah, that's the size of the counties here, man. We're the state of Connecticut, basically.
Right, and
Yeah,
as a sheriff, that's your jurisdiction, your
yeah,
responsibility,
yeah. We're the
and
primary law enforcement.
right, a lot of those small rural communities, like in many rural places, I mean, they can't afford or can't staff a local police department. It's on you guys
Right,
to respond.
right.
So you guys see a lot, and obviously, and been doing it for 30 years, you definitely have, and you train for all kind of things, just like the military does. You train for every scenario. We train harder than you fight, and you hope you never have to use that training, right? You
Right.
train for every scenario, and that's one thing I think. And maybe you could cover this. I mean, different than maybe a city police department or even a state, maybe somewhat similar to a state trooper or state police. But as a county sheriff and a sheriff's team, I mean, you guys are you guys have to be everything, right? The SWAT, the EMTs, the this, especially when you're out there patrolling big remote areas of where you may be by yourself or with a partner. How has that been? I mean, how do you guys stay on top of that, and how do you guys try to be the answer for everything?
Well, you just have to specialize in a lot of stuff, and we do just that. We have people that are specializing in all the different aspects of law enforcement. For us, a lot of people don't realize for a sheriff's office, we're mandated to do search and rescue. We're mandated to maintain the jail. We're mandated to serve papers, and those are all constitutional mandates for our office. And so, like the search and rescue is a big piece for us, right? We have the Superstition Mountains in our county, which are well-known mountains for people searching for gold, the Lost Dutchman, all that stuff. And we have a lot of searches up there, especially this time of year into the summertime. We have snake bites, we have people get hurt, we have people get lost, we have people get dehydrated. So we have a whole unit that's dedicated and specialized just in search and rescue, with a helicopter to hoist people out when we need to. And then we have remote areas and all the way into very urban areas that we're responsible for. We have a town in our county, which I actually live in, called Santan Valley, and it is about a population of 125,000 that we service. We are the police agency for that town, and so we're all over the map on what we service as a sheriff's office and what we have to take care of. And it's our great men and women that just they have their basic cop skills, and then a lot of them that are in these specialty units that focus on those things are very specialized and very highly trained in a bunch of different stuff to take care of all those issues.
Yeah, that's I think some people just don't realize. I mean, but, sheriffs already stand apart because they're the only law enforcement that's elected, right? They're
Hmm.
elected by the
Right.
people and representing the people. That's what one thing is, sheriffs stand apart, but also especially in areas like Arizona, New Mexico, and other areas which have a lot of remote country. You guys have to be the 911 for everything, and I think that's pretty awesome. So we're gonna on this episode, this show, I want to talk a little bit about the border since we're talking about this, because not only do you have to handle the people, like say they're out looking for gold mines or hiking, they're doing whatever, breaking down or whatever, having the car breaking down, but you also have a tremendous amount of illegals coming across, going through your area, trying to get to other places. Has that added, let me ask you, one, has that added a whole new dynamic to the kind of calls you guys do there? But number two, have you seen that increase that we see on the news of them coming across in the last couple of years? Have you seen an increase there in just crime, rescues, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the surges that you're seeing, and when they're talking about the numbers of 2 million coming across the border, we have felt that increase. And the one thing that has changed over time from when I first started working for the agency and the smuggling and stuff that we saw back then, of course, it all has progressed quite a bit. But the we have over time, typically drugs has been the commodity, and that has shifted, and bodies are the main commodity right now that the cartels are pushing. So, and if you think about it, it's a brilliant business plan on their part, because if they're shipping drugs up, typically speaking, they ship drugs. The drugs get to the shipment location, wherever they're landing, they get payment for those drugs. With bodies, they're getting prepayment because they're requiring those people to pay their fees before the cartels will let them cross the border into America and guide them to wherever they're going. So they're getting prepayment, and it's anywhere from 6 to 10,000 a head. So if you have a carload of 10 people, that could be anywhere from 60 to 100,000 that they've paid the cartel for that carload of people to get across and be brought up into Arizona, Phoenix, and then dispersed throughout the U.S. And if they lose that load, they don't care because they've already made their money. So it's a revenue positive for them, and it's a good way to make money. And what we've seen is a significant increase in pursuits. We just had another one this morning. I was on my way up to the state capitol to testify on behalf of the sheriff. And on my way up there, we had a short pursuit that turned into a bailout where everybody jumps out of the car, takes off running, and it was all illegals. And so that's almost a daily basis for us now, where we're having pursuits. They're running from us. They're sometimes wrecking, sometimes just stopping and all bailing out. And then we're in a foot chase and we're calling Border Patrol. Border Patrol is way overtaxed on their resources. And if people don't understand the system, here's how it works. An illegal alien gets apprehended. Border Patrol is just the apprehension piece. They grab them, they process them, and then they hand them off to ICE. ICE processes them and gets them into the system and gives them their court dates. Well, the system is so taxed right now because we have such an influx that they're basically kicking them out the door, telling them, okay, your court date for this is in 4 and 5 years, and you promise to come back, and kicking them out the door and letting them loose. And so that is a problem, obviously, as well. So the game has shifted quite a bit. And then another thing we're seeing that you and I kind of talked about offline before we started was technology. And so that's what I was testifying about today is the use of telephones, apps, and social media. That's what they're using to recruit. And they're specifically targeting teenage kids that, they're promising them, hey, you want to make a quick $1,000, just drive to this location, pick these people up and drive them back to Phoenix, and you get paid $1,000. And they're doing this recruiting on all the like Snapchat, Instagram, and finding these kids that are going down and committing these crimes and bringing the people back up. So it's a prolific problem in Arizona, in our county specifically, so that people understand. We're right in between Phoenix and Tucson. So if you travel from one to the other, you pass right through our county. I-8 starts in our county and it ends in San Diego. So that's kind of the cut across. And where I-8 is, that is the southwest portion of our county. And the southwest line of our county is about 50 to 60 miles, give or take, off the U.S.-Mexican border. And below that is all open desert. And that's what makes our county so attractive, because essentially the first civilization they hit is when they hit our county.
Right. And so when they recruit these kids, I want to roll back to that. Are these American kids?
Yes.
So
yeah,
they're hitting American kids that live in America. I'm assuming citizens, maybe not, but they live here, and they're finding them on Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever, and recruiting them. I mean, man, this is just like, it's almost like Groundhog Day from Afghanistan, where they would, the Taliban that would recruit kids just to, go plan an IED. And they're paying $50, which is more than that kid's family made in probably a couple of months. Right. And they don't care if they get killed. They don't care if the Americans would smoke them or if they blew themselves up. There's plenty to where they came from. I mean, it sounds like the same tactic.
Yeah, same tactic. And what the cartels understand is that in our legal system, the juveniles don't have the same process as adults. And so it's easier to use the juveniles. It's easier to target the juveniles, right? If a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid can make $1,000 just for driving down and back, that they understand that the greed sets in, and they know that social media is a perfect way to recruit, because I mean that's where the predators go to find children as well, right? For sexually exploit children. So they know that that's a right ground.
Is that why we see these sometimes when these coyotes and they're running and they have these terrible car accidents? I think there was just one last week in Texas, or, and just, multiple people get killed, get tossed out. Is it because they're young, inexperienced drivers that are usually doing that, besides the high speed and everything else?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of that, young, inexperienced drivers. And some of the cartels are telling their drivers, you will run or we'll take care of you, right? So you're going to face retribution if you don't run from the cops when they try to stop you. So they're running for their lives sometimes
Right.
and doing stuff that they don't know how to do with a car.
Like you said, they get paid on the trip up anyways, whether the package gets delivered or not. So
Right.
I think that's why we also see sometimes children. I think one just the other day, a 1-year-old got left right on the other side of the
Hmm.
next to a river. That's why, right? They've already got paid. They just take and drop it
Yeah.
off. They don't care if that
Yeah.
person lives or dies or whatever. And
Right. No, they don't. They don't care. And we have a lot of unaccompanied minors, and some of the sad stories are just that you have parents that are so desperate to get their kids to a better place that they'll just ship up a 2-year-old along with their 7-year-old brother or sister, and hand them off to unknown adults and just say, go north and go to America and find a better life. Well, that's not what is happening. The cartels are exploiting those children,
yeah,
and then you have the problem with the women too. And I'll tell you a story that's a very powerful story that we had happen with our air unit when they were doing some interdictions with Border Patrol, and they interdicted a group, and there was a female in that group, and she was in her 20s, and she had a bag of pills. And of course, anytime you have a bag of pills as a cop, fentanyl being so prolific, we're like, oh, what is this? And so our people are questioning her, and they ask her, okay, what are these pills? And she said, well, these are morning after pills because I knew I'd be raped 8 to 10 times on the way up, and I didn't want to get pregnant from being raped. So I have these morning after pills. And I mean, how sad is that? That's the state of our state and our nation, that people are dying to get here and being exploited during that trip to look for a better life. And I can tell you as a father and as an American and as a human being who cares about other human beings, I want to see people do better. I want to see people have a better life. But that's part of what I talked about earlier today in my testimony, was that the problem is we have very strong criminal organizations that are controlling this, and they are exploiting these human beings. They're exploiting their own people, because a lot of times these are Mexicans trying to get up here, and you have Mexicans in charge of Mexican cartels that are exploiting their own people so heavily. It's beyond comprehension, man.
again, just I mean, how can they not be considered a terrorist organization? It's the same thing our enemies in Iraq and Afghanistan did. They would let their own people die, their own, fellow Muslims, fellow whatever. They didn't care because it wasn't about that religion or about some greater purpose, except for just becoming rich and doing that kind of thing. Now, you
Yep.
mentioned Mexicans coming over, but I mean, obviously we see a lot of things in the news of now a lot of Chinese nationals, I mean, others from Latin America and South America. Are you seeing them coming through your county too? Are you guys picking up others from outside the Americas?
Yeah, you are, and those numbers for us typically are not, they're not like prolific, right? We don't see just slews of them, but you will see waves of different countries, and typically it's Central America. Like you'll see, okay, all of a sudden we're seeing a lot of Guatemalans, or we're seeing a lot of Hondurans or Salvadorians in with the Mexicans, but you will get those one-offs and two-offs where you have Chinese nationals, or where you have people from countries of interest, right, overseas, and they're all bad actors and they're mixed in. And I can tell you from experience, we've had some Iraqis that we caught with a group of Mexicans, and I'll be damned if I couldn't tell the difference. They looked of Mexican descent to me, or of like Honduran, Guatemalan descent
Right.
to me, and so it's very difficult sometimes to pick those out of a group.
Until they open their mouth and speak, right? That's when you
Yeah,
probably the only chance
exactly.
you know.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing was, this was closer to like the probably about the 2006 or 7 era. So we weren't too far from 2001, and the group themselves, the Mexicans in the group, gave up the 2 or 3 guys that were Iraqis, and they were basically like they kind of separated themselves after we stopped them and left these 2 or 3 guys standing by themselves, and everybody was kind of like, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And when we get to talking to them off to the side, they kept calling them terrorists. And because that's what they associated them with, because they knew they were from the Middle East. And so the Mexicans were calling them terrorists. And that's how, we kind of figured out
Wow.
with Border Patrol that they were from a country of interest.
Yeah. Wow. Holy cow. Yeah. It's, I mean, again, that's why I love this perspective, because you see whatever's presented on the news. Obviously, you see, things like, DHS Secretary Mayorkas, who was just in front of the Senate. Um, you know, I mean, you don't even have to be someone in the know or be a custom border patrol agent or anywhere near the border to know that he's just absolutely not speaking the truth when he just won't even admit a yes or no question, an answer on is the border secure, is it open, is it this, and so people see that and they get their sound bites off the news, but to get this
Right.
like firsthand perspective, what you're seeing with the social media and other technologies, and the kind of people, and like you say, they come in, they hit your county as the first civilization. I
Right.
mean, I imagine some of them got to be like, they got to throw their hands up and be like, we made it, this is it, I reached,
Yeah.
I reached nirvana. I mean,
Right.
that kind of thing. Now, and these are getaways, right? These are not the ones that are stopped by custom and process, right? We're talking about the people that did not get stopped that are stumbling through your
Right. So when
county.
they're getting into our county, yeah, that means they have made it free and clear. They've essentially traveled through the desert and got to a location where they've been picked up, and now they're traveling to a hub like Phoenix to be dispersed throughout the nation. So yeah, those are gotaways, or the ones that they not necessarily gotaways. Sometimes they also have where border patrol has detected people and just don't have the technology or any confirmation of who or how many, so they know they have an incursion, but they don't have anybody to respond. They don't have anything confirming who or what it is, and those people push north. And typically speaking, our county is the first county they meet resistance, because the two counties south of us, we have Pima County and Santa Cruz County, and both of those counties have a sheriff that refused to acknowledge that there's a problem as well. So now our county is left to deal with the problem.
So politics is still playing into it down at the local level.
Oh yeah,
With
yeah,
at the, I was wondering, because Arizona has a Democrat governor, right? I think it's a Democrat. She's a, yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
I hate to even say that, but yes.
well, I live in New York, so I trust you. I'd much rather be in Arizona than here. But so are you guys facing, I mean, obviously the feds, right? The Custom Border Patrol are kind of, hamstrung by their leadership and the political level,
Right.
but and Sheriff Mark Lamb can impose. But you said other sheriffs may or may not. I mean, are you find them in a working relationship, or like do the state police not really work with you? Do the ICE not, or do they not work with you? I mean, do you guys find yourself out there on your own sometimes?
No, no, we work well across the state and with our federal partners too. We've always done well, no matter the administration, because we made it through the Obama administration as well, and we just had to work those back channels. What you'll
Right.
find is the guys on the ground, the grunts doing the work, they always make it happen, right? And
Right.
and they get the job done, no matter who it is, whether it's on the federal level, local level, state level. We work well with our state partners, but of course, the state politics kind of dictate what they're able to do.
Right.
We work well with our federal partners. We have task force officers assigned to some federal agencies. We have some federal officers assigned to some of our local task forces. So we work well with them. And I do have to, because you mentioned Mayorkas, I do want to say one thing, because he gained a lot of points in my book. And if anybody knows, our sheriff lost his son, daughter-in-law, and grandchild in a tragic accident back in December, right before Christmas. And Secretary Mayorkas actually sent a handwritten note to the sheriff, sending condolences and his thoughts and prayers. And so, as just a person to a person, that was a big big deal for us, and especially for the
Yeah.
sheriff, because he basically reached across party lines and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." And then just last week, he was in town and he called the sheriff and said, "I'd like to meet with you one on one." And sheriff said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so the sheriff went down and met with him, and he left all his staffers in a room and went into a room alone with the sheriff, and basically just said, "Hey, I know we don't agree on some things, but I still think we can work together to towards some resolution of some problems." And they talked for a good 30 minutes or so, and at least talked through some of this stuff. So and that's all we can ask for, right, from our
Right.
federal
That
partners,
says
at
a
least.
lot. if he
Right.
did it unprompted, unsolicited, or
Right.
forced, and says, "Hey, I," that to me, that hearing that tells me he knows there's a problem. He's just probably hamstrung about what he can
Yeah.
publicly say.
And
Right?
that's exactly what I took from it
Yeah.
after the sheriff met with him, and then the sheriff and I talked. That was the distinct feeling that I had. He's between a rock and a hard place, and he's just trying to do what he thinks is best.
Yeah, with what he's allowed to, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because obviously at his level, you kind of got to go marching orders, or you won't be there.
Right.
But yeah, well, that's something. That's stuff good to hear. When you technology, I want to hit on that one more quick time.
Yeah.
Are you seeing things besides social media? Are you seeing them using other communication devices, drones, any kind of other, excuse me, modern technologies that we see just in the regular space?
Yeah, so they apps is the big thing right now, right? Because there's so many encrypted end-to-end encryption apps, and they love that. That's a great means for them to do their stuff without being intercepted. So they like the apps, they like the phones. There's some of them that still stick to the old school radio systems where they're talking via VHF or digital radio systems, and they're using that for communications. And then drones are definitely in use. If you pay attention to Mexico, what's going on down there, drones have two purposes for them. Well, three purposes really. They're using them for intel gathering. They're using them for scouting. They're using them for actual drug drops. So because if you think about it, a package of fentanyl, you don't have to have a lot to get a lot of fentanyl across the border, right? And so they could drone drop that stuff, and they do.
Wow.
And then they're also using it for assaults on their enemies. So we have a lot of cartel fighting going on right now down south, and so cartel on cartel violence. They're using the drones rigged with explosives to take each other out.
Wow, they have learned well from the battlefields, haven't they? That's
Yes.
something. You mentioned, I said, was the last question, but now you made me think of another one. Recently, a few weeks ago, we had those four people going to Mexico. They got snatched up by the cartel right after crossing over. A couple got killed, and then the cartel seemed to do something that was very, very unorthodox for them, and they turned them back over.
Yeah.
Did you find that strange? Do you think it was a cartel
No.
just trying to just make peace, realizing that it got so much attention on the world stage that maybe that was the thing to do, and it's a PR move by them? I was
Well,
curious.
there's a couple things going on. So what you need to understand is that the cartel is such a big organization, right? And so you're talking from cartel bosses all the way down to street level guys that are just watching street corners for loads to go past. And so in those ranks, those are criminals, and so criminals are opportunists. So a lot of times these guys that are cartel members over here, they're working for the cartel and they're following orders and they're doing a specific set of duties. But then on the side, they may have their own side hustle going on, which
Right.
includes robbery, extortion, whatever. And so I think either one of two things happen. The intel is kind of pointing to one of two things. Either these guys were out of bounds with what they did, like it wasn't a sanctioned thing. The cartel did not sanction that move, and they went and made a move on their own. And because of that, the cartel knows that, hey, you're causing us a lot of heat. This is
Yeah.
unsanctioned. So there you go. And essentially force them to give themselves up. And I mean, it was obviously very forced because they delivered them handcuffed on a sidewalk, face down. And either that happened or those were just scapegoats. And the cartel knew we have to give somebody up
Mm.
to get the heat off of us, and you guys are the guys, and there you go.
You're the FNGs. You're the newest
Yeah,
guys on the team.
right,
First
right.
in, last in, first out. Yeah. Yeah, either way, it just, but as interesting. Yeah, I saw that happen. I kind of thought what I heard, it was kind of along the first path, which is that there's too much heat and it doesn't support their greater thing. Especially, they've got to be hearing a lot of lawmakers in this country and people in this country saying we need to take them on like a terrorist organization. We need to
Yeah,
go to war with them. And I think
yeah.
I think the cartel's got to be keeping an eye on that, and probably does not want that at all.
No,
Um,
no, absolutely. And what people don't realize is why we keep it sounds like rhetoric, right? When you keep hearing it, you keep hearing politicians talk about it. But what you need to think about it, and you understand this from the global war on terror. If we designate them as narco terrorists, not only does that open the gate to use our military to address that problem, but it also creates a whole new avenue for us to be able to attack anybody associated with them and go after financials
Right.
and go after bank accounts and shut businesses down. So all of a sudden, a person that's dealing with the Mexican cartel and is making a really good amount of money dealing with a criminal organization, when they're dealing with a terrorist organization, they face a whole new slew of shit, and they're going to just say,
Yeah.
"Whoa, we don't want to mess with that."
Yeah, assets frozen and all kind of negative attention on the yeah, on that level for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, you got this big thing behind you. I want to talk about it. It looks like a book. It
Yeah,
smells like a book, and you have a stack of them next to you. So
I
you are
do.
now a published author because
I
you know
am.
you got everything going on. Tell us a little bit about this. Where we can find it, what's it about, and give our watchers and listeners some intel on this.
Well, hopefully the watchers and listeners are readers too, because yes, I
Yeah,
did write a
that's
book. It's
true.
called Interceptors: The Untold Fight Against the Mexican Cartels. Published it back in November, and that's kind of my promotional piece that a friend got me when I published the book. And essentially, what it goes through is it's a little bit in the beginning about my background, and I wanted to lay the groundwork on why I knew what I knew and why I was going to talk about what I was going to talk about in the book. And then it goes into the structure of the cartels as we see them, how we've seen the Sinaloa cartel structured specifically, because that's who we fight mostly. Their structure, their command structure. It goes into some of their beliefs, the narco culture, some of their religious beliefs, and how they bastardized the religious beliefs into a narco religious culture. Then it goes into operations that I was specifically involved in that were counter narcotics and counter cartel operations in the southwest portion of our county, out in the middle of the desert. And they were essentially, when you read them and when you see the operations we were essentially doing military maneuvers against the cartels as a local law enforcement agency. So it was really unheard of. It was new territory for us, and we had to learn on the fly. And it's a lot about those operations and how we fought that problem.
Awesome. That is, well, coming on the tail end of what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. I mean, I guess people can understand why we covered this, and to learn more, they definitely need to pick up the book and probably get a lot more details. Where can people find it at?
So they can go to my website, which is onetimenation.com, and there's books available there. And you can also find it on Kindle, Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes and Noble. It's on all the platforms.
Are you doing any book signings, tours, or do you sell signed ones or anything like that?
I do sell signed ones. If they go to my website, they can get the signed ones. And I am doing some some of the I don't necessarily say they're book tours, but I'm going to some different training events that I'm being invited to speak and stuff, and I'll take my books with me and sign those there and sell them. And yeah,
Awesome.
I'm doing whatever I can do to get the word out there.
And how's it been so far? How have the sales? How's the interest and that kind of stuff?
I really didn't pay attention. I'm not paying attention to the sales. I was just happy to get the thing done
Right.
and
I'm
launched.
sure.
And according to my numbers and the people that helped me launch it, I'm doing good for a
Good.
self-published author, because it's hard. You're up against a machine. And the feedback is what I pay attention to. And the feedback's been phenomenal. Like, I have a lot of people that are like, dude, I read this in one sitting. Like, it was like it gripped me and I stayed in it, which is, as an author, that's what you want. You want to grab their attention
Right.
and you want to keep it. So it seems to be going good, man. I even have some big hitters in the entertainment world and stuff that have read it and have given me good feedback. So
Awesome. Well, hopefully they're
good.
putting those endorsements up on Amazon and places so people can see that.
Yep.
No, that's great. Cause look, we just talked about it. Everyone hears about this on the news. That's why we covered some of it here in this interview, but they don't hear the on the street or on the ground, kind of in the desert perspective, if you would, right?
Right.
As they just hear what, people do a tour and the cameras are out, but what not only you as law enforcement are facing, but honestly, the citizens of our country, of your state, of your county, what those people, we didn't even get into that yet. We'll have to cover that another time, but just, how are they feeling about this? I know I've known a few people down near border areas that are just, they feel like they're out there on their own, just fighting for their lives. I mean,
Yeah.
they feel abandoned by their own country.
And they do, absolutely, especially when you're talking about like the ranchers and stuff that have been down there for generations. They absolutely feel abandoned.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And some of them are having to take the law in their own hands, right?
Yep.
As we see. But awesome. Well, hey, Matt, thank you so much. People, make sure you check that out. You can find the Interceptors. Look for that, Matthew Thomas, Amazon, or anywhere books are sold. And appreciate you coming on. And I know we got some more topics we're going to talk about in further episodes. But good to see you again, brother. And
You too, man.
We'll catch you next time.
All right.
Everybody have a good night or a good time. And thank you for watching us. Stay tuned on Stu and the Nun. Check our Facebook page, Twitter, all of our socials, and keep up on the next episode when it's coming out. Thank you and have a good night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.